And welcome to Ask the Governor for February 2017. This is Governor Tom Wolf's first visit since his third budget address to a joint session of the legislature earlier this month. 22 minutes. We appreciate the brevity on our end.
All my budget addresses have been in the 20-minute, 22, 24-minute range.
Yeah,
I think.
Before your administration, though, that's not something we were used to. Yeah, your former boss in particular used to get a little wordy. Let's talk about education funding out of the gate. You on the rise again. You want to put more money in. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the budget overall, is an effort to recognize the reality that government needs to live within its means, and so we're looking at a $3 billion budget deficit, a structural deficit, and so I'm looking to bridge that gap without any broad-based tax, no income tax increase, no sales tax increase.
Is it 3 now? Because 2 was the number I heard for most of this year.
If you add the $700 million from this year, it gets close to $3 billion. And so I'm trying to live within our means, but do what governments have not done before, and that is say, okay, we're not just going to cut across the board. We're going to say, okay, we are going to streamline government, but we're still going to invest in the things that we need to invest in, like seniors, like the opioid epidemic, like jobs, and as you point out, like education. We really need to protect education. So this budget is not even just a level funding. I'm increasing education funding by over $200 million, including $75 million for early childhood education.
The consolidation of health, human services, aging, and drug and alcohol programs. What kind of feedback have you been getting both inside and outside the Capitol? Because I know you've been out on the road quite a bit lately. Well, what are you hearing as far as how people are accepting that idea?
I think two things. First of all, theoretically, it makes sense. We've got to figure out how to work in a more efficient manner. But I'm also hearing concerns. How are we going to do it? And I think that's legitimate. When I did this in my own company, a number of times, people are concerned about, this is the job I've been doing, this is what I know how to do. Am I going to still have a job that I know how to do? And I think that's legitimate. We are doing this in a way that keeps the transitions. We're doing this as humanely as we possibly can. But I'm building on things that we've done. If you look at the good things that government has done, like the opioid epidemic, that's a multi-agency right now approach. We're using Human Services, Department of Health, Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, the Department of Aging. All of those agencies have worked together to do, I think, a good job in addressing, at least starting to address the opioid epidemic. And so I'm building on that and saying, are we persisting in these boundaries because we've always done it this way, or are we doing it because this is the way people want their government to work? When someone calls in with a problem, they're not looking to see if their problem fits into any silo that was laid down by some historic accident. They're looking to fix a problem. And I think that's what government ought to do, to try to be responsive to their problems, not to the way we've always done things.
With this consolidation, is your administration getting a little more firmer on numbers that could be saved, money that could be saved? I know when they announced that they were saying that layoffs would be minimal, if any, and they just kept talking about breaking down those silos, but it didn't sound like there were duplicate programs across the agencies. So where will savings come from?
How much?
Yeah, we're looking, I think, somewhere in the 60 to $80 million in savings.
Annually or one-time savings?
Annually.
Okay.
And that's because there are duplicative services. And we've already addressed some of those things across the whole spectrum of government with sharing information technology and HR services. Those are things that happen.
So not programs that the citizens apply to, but within the agencies, like breaking down who's running the computers and HR departments.
Yeah, okay. Things like that. Should be backroom stuff. The goal is not to affect services to customers. Actually, the goal is to make it easier. Right now, for example, if you have 3 different call centers that you call into, because you're not sure which problem corresponds to which call center, you may or may not get shifted to the right place if we have a single point of contact, which we're trying to do with the Department of Community and Economic Development. So the goal is not to cut programs; it's actually to make programs work better, and that's what your original question was on education. That's why with the savings that I'm looking to produce, we're still able to add money to education because we can shift money from where we were spending it to where it could do the most good.